some attention. The president he was talking in front of uniformed police officers, talking about how police officers treat suspects who, of course, have not been convicted of a crime. They're presumed to be innocent under the Constitution. This is what he had to say.
When you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
Do you support the president's call for police brutality?
No. I would say that the president is coming to an area where we have people who, I have my own constituents, the high-profile murder of 4 by MS-13 that brought AG Sessions here a few months ago. 2 of them were my constituents. 2 were in Congressman King's district. Yeah. They were murdered by machetes. The nature of what we are going through right now is tearing apart families. It's
those crimes are indisputably horrible. That anyone who sees them will be. The question is it okay, even in the context of that, to instruct police officers to engage in illegal criminal activity, which is assault or police brutality?
Right. Yeah. So, and just finishing the thought to answer that question is, while it is deeply emotional what's going on, it's very important for our law enforcement to be following their rules, the laws, because people are innocent until proven guilty. We have a process here in our country to ensure that people have a hearing, right to counsel. Yep. What's interesting, though, is when dealing with MS-13, we have people who are illegal on many different fronts, and that whole issue is highly charged, but it is the best practice of all of our law enforcement to be following their local rules and regulations and understanding people are innocent until proven guilty.
This is what the Suffolk County PD said, has strict rules and procedures relating to the handling of prisoners. Violations of those rules are treated extremely seriously. Was it appropriate for the president to say that?
No, I mean, I definitely have a different style than the president. I mean, if I was up there, I wouldn't have said it.
To tell police officers to engage in brutality?
I can't agree with that.
Was it appropriate for the police officers on stage to applaud?
I didn't know I was going to be here to referee this one sentence of the speech. I mean, they really got into a whole lot of really important issues.
But Congressman, you can understand. You know who Freddie Gray is, right?
Sure.
Okay. His spine was snapped, and he died in the back of a police van, possibly because he was treated roughly in there. And you can understand how, say, if his family members were to see this speech with the President of the United States making a joke about treating prisoners roughly and seeing police officers applaud, you can understand how that would really be hurtful to those people, right?
Sure. I would also say that there are a whole lot of people who watched this speech who live in my area who are very pleased that the president is taking the aggressive approach that he is on combating MS-13 because they lost their son as a result of a attack with a machete. So,
but the question is,
everyone can help.
The key point here is there's a question between one and the other, right? Because I think what seems important as someone who is a lawmaker or someone who's the president and enforcing the law is to understand that the engaging in protecting people from MS-13 and prosecuting crimes, right, does not necessitate the police engaging in extrajudicial violence. That seems like an important line to establish, and that one doesn't have anything to do with the other because we're a nation of laws and we pursue people like MS-13 lawfully.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those particular questions where it's kind of impossible to be. You can't play devil's advocate. I mean, again, law enforcement has to follow their local regulations. They have to follow their laws, and people are innocent until proven guilty. I would say that there is an emotion that is felt when it is when there's a killer who just murdered someone with a machete. That we're going, they're not in this country legally, and that goes on, and we're worried about making sure that they don't bang their head. But one of the reasons why you set those standards is that you don't want anyone to take matters into their own hands, and then you have an issue that becomes more complicated. So I mean, I get it, and it's impossible to argue the other side of it. And if I was up there, I wouldn't have said it. But there was so much more to this speech, and also so much more to the backstory of what we're going through here. And Suffolk police sent out their tweet afterwards, to reiterate what their policy is, and I'm sure that their people are going to get the message.
I want to play. These crimes, obviously, that have been committed there are horrifying, and we should also be clear that the violence that gangs like MS-13, which was actually started in the United States, exported back to El Salvador from American prisons, have wreaked unbelievable pain and suffering in Central America as well. So these are groups that have really left a long toll of violence. The president describing what it's like in the district adjoining yours had this to say, to get to your point about the broader themes of the speech. Take a listen.
Since January 16, think of this. MS-13 gang members have brutally murdered 17 beautiful young lives in this area on Long Island alone. They beat them with clubs, they slashed them with machetes, and they stabbed them with knives. They have transformed peaceful parks and beautiful, quiet neighborhoods into blood-stained killing fields.
Given how horrific these crimes are, and they really have been horrific, and it has been concentrated geographically, but do you think about the place you live and the place that you represent, the adjoining district, as blood-stained killing fields? Is that an accurate characterization of the place in which you reside?
When these incidents take place, there at that moment, absolutely. These are. I love Long Island. This is our home. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Especially this time of year, we have a lot of people who come visit us. Right. The weather's beautiful for those who are watching and want a good place to vacation. But at that moment, when you're outside of that bar, and there was a small skirmish inside that results in someone taking a knife and basically ripping out. I don't want to say it on the show, but what happened. One of the other incidents that happened. And it's not, and they don't use guns in many cases because they don't want too quick of a death, and they want other people watching what happens. So at that moment, it's just happening too much, and it's also human trafficking, it's drug trafficking, gang rape. We talk about the murders, but we don't talk about all the other stuff that's going on as well.
All right, Lee Zeldin, I really appreciate you taking the time tonight. Thank you for sticking around.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, next, the dramatic scenes from last night's vote. Gasps on the floor, the stare down